the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Anyone growing up in the 90s should know about the show, and I was one of them. They used to air the show subtitled back when I was a kid, so naturally, when I found the game, I had to play it. The game was fairly faithful to the show. Being able to switch between the turtles who use their own weapons makes it a challenge on picking the right turtle for the right situation. Despite having access to 4 characters, the game is very hard, but for the wrong reasons. The biggest problem with this game is the amount of enemies and the fact that they respawn immediately once you return to the screen. The sheer amount of them will simply chip your health away. I mean, look at this. All the junk on the screen that spawns back the moment you leave the screen. I honestly don't know how I was able to beat this game back then. The first stage is pretty straightforward, but then the second stage hits you with disarming bombs underwater with a timer. I remember spending hours on this part until I got the routes down. But even knowing the correct routes did not help with getting through the seaweeds unscathed. It is so difficult to get through here without taking damage, so I just brute force it to stay ahead of the timer. The third stage is about gathering missiles for your vehicle to blow away the barricades so it can reach to the boss. It is another endurance of unlimited spawning enemies on the road, chipping away at your health. The third boss is a turtle clone that once you beat turns you into a flying robot. The robot shoots homing missiles at you, but it is nothing a simple brute force cannot handle. The next stage you go to an underground maze. If you don't know the correct way, you could get stuck in a loop full of enemies and deadly traps. The only thing that's truly dangerous is the pit of fire that will instantly take out one of your turtles if you fall into them. At the end of the stage, you get to fight this giant robot that shoots eye lasers and spits out a smaller version of itself. Just hit its mouth while standing under it and it is a goner. Easy peasy. Next, you sneak into the Foot Clan's base, and the goal is to find the stage boss hidden under one of these manholes. The enemies here hits particularly hard, so you might have to be extra careful in taking them out one by one. The boss here is the giant mobile base. There are multiple parts you can break to disable its weapons, but the main target is the eye, which you can only do damage when it is open. Once the eye is blown, we get to the final stage. Again, just like other levels, you fight through a horde of enemies until you eventually get to the final boss, Shredder. He is probably the easiest boss in the entire game. If you have ninja stars, you can literally just throw it at him until you win. The ending shows Splinter turning back to human, and April praises you afterwards. Now let's talk about the next game. We have the arcade. Just like the name says, it is based on the arcade game in which you can have up to 4-player co-op. They did their best to recreate the arcade game, and it is actually pretty fun, especially when you have someone to play with. In this game, the majority of the attack you're going to be using is the jumping attack, which is executed by pressing the attack button right after the jump button. This attack will take out most of the enemies in one shot, which is very important when you are constantly being teamed up against. The key to beating this game is to gather up as much lives as you can, which happens at score 200 and every 100 afterwards until 600, then it happens again at 800. I don't know why it is that way, but it is the way it is. Ideally, we will want to have at least 5 lives before we get to the final stage, and the final stage is extremely difficult. You start out fighting Krang, and it's hard as heck because he has this super fast kick that is essentially unavoidable. Best way to beat him is to just spam the jumping attack as much as you can. Once you take out Krang, Shredder comes out from the screen and does the Bunshin no Jutsu on you. They were a bit too faithful to the original arcade game, and decides to give him the beam that turns you back into a turtle, which makes you lose a life. In a rare occasion, you can put him in a loop in the corner, where you can just fly kick him until you win. Taking out his mirror image will just make him summon out another, so the biggest thing is to focus on damaging his true form as much as possible. I would say if it weren't for the Shredder's transformation beam, this game would have been much easier. And the last Turtle game I have played on the NES is the Manhattan Project. This game was an upgrade from the previous one in terms of both graphics and sound. One major difference is now each turtle has their own special attacks, and they are the key to beating this game. I will explain that in a bit, but before that, I want to introduce you to another critical move in this game, the stabbing throw. The stabbing throw will one-shot most of the normal enemies, meaning you have less chance of taking damage. Every stage is a long endurance of fighting groups of enemies. You will be scrolling through the screen wondering when you will reach to the end. The bosses in this game is even harder than the previous one, which I did not think would be possible. Luckily, I have the special attacks that I mentioned earlier. These attacks takes a bar of life to use, but they are super powerful and does a lot of damage. And not only that, if you're down to 1 bar of health, you can use it as much as you want. I just spam this move on each boss and they go down in no time. I think there are like 7 stages in this game, and there were some recycled bosses within those stages. Crane shows up again in this game, but he's nothing against my spinning stick slam. The final boss is Super Shredder. I always loved Super Shredder. I remember watching the first movie and how cool it was to see him in the final scene, but not even the powerful Super Shredder is a match for the special attack spam. After this game, I will grow out of the franchise and have not touched any of its content since, but I will always remember these games. Now, why play them again? I will get back to you on that. In the meantime, like this video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed it and want to see more. I will see you in the next one.